case you missed it, it's the top 5 sports talkers of the day. Now, it's time for Dan Barreiro's Top 5 at 5.
It is indeed that time again. Blakemore in for the rest of the show. That's going the distance. I think this is the only day this week we're going all the way until 6:30 tonight. I'll give you one that might not even be on your list.
Okay.
We were talking about the fact that the Bears had requested the opportunity to interview Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy, in part because Dallas hadn't made a move on McCarthy as far as we knew. They hadn't fired him, but they also hadn't indicated they were going to keep him. And there seemed to be an open question on that. Apparently, the Cowboys said no. So they must still have contractual control on McCarthy. There are a couple people nationally who have expressed anger and frustration with the Dallas approach that if they're going to sort of let McCarthy twist in the wind, it's a little bit jackassy to then turn around and say, but no, you're not talking to anybody else either. Now, strictly speaking, I think they can do that, but it's an interesting wrinkle today. The Bears, by the time the Bears are done interviewing, I think the list is going to be closer to 20, and maybe that's thorough, but for me it comes off as we don't know what to do, so we're going to throw everybody against the wall and see what sticks. But at least for now, McCarthy apparently not available to be talked to. I believe the Bears have confirmed that they are going to talk to Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll has expressed interest in the position previously. He has been, he's out of football now. He was with the Seahawks most recently. He's battling ageism. I think he's 72, maybe 73. He always struck me as young for his age, no matter what his age was. And I would certainly put him in the hopper. I would absolutely put him in the mix. I think he's an extremely good coach. It's one of those coaches that players seem to like to play for. So apparently the Bears are at least going to be talking to Pete Carroll. I don't know if any other teams have expressed interest.
He's 73. Another name that I saw that I thought was interesting, Iowa State head coach Matt Campbell, which they just recently extended.
Oh, is that right?
I believe
interesting.
So.
Okay.
So I would be shocked. And then they did, Adam Schefter, 4 minutes ago, the Bears completed an interview with Mike Vrabel.
Mike Vrabel.
So they're interviewing anybody.
Yeah, well, Vrabel is obviously young, old. One of the prominent names. The assumption was he was going to end up in New England. Then somebody said, well, no, but wait a minute. With Brady, maybe he convinces them now that the Vegas job's available for him to go there. The assumption is in the game of dominoes that Vrabel's got first choice. I don't know if that's true, but it certainly seems to be he's at the top of the list. I still can't believe that the New Orleans Saints have expressed interest in who's the offensive coordinator in Kansas City. Used to be the Bears head coach.
Nagy.
Honest to God.
Yeah.
I thought it was like one of those onion things. It's like, what can you be thinking? And it is a good example of, for the coaches who never get one shot, you go, what? Why? He showed nothing. And he still doesn't really, I don't think, all the time call the plays. I still think we all know Andy Reid's the genius of the operation. So some decision-making in this league is inexplicable.
Once you get into the fraternity,
I guess that's it.
Hard to get out, apparently.
That's the problem, yeah.
Authorities are still looking at the wildfires and still evaluating what they're going to do as far as the Vikings and Rams on Monday. I will say the NHL has already postponed some Kings games, so they're still kind of monitoring.
Tonight there was a game, yeah.
Yes. So it definitely is looking more and more likely by the day that it might affect the Vikings on Monday. I mean, I would imagine it would be air quality more than safety.
Well,
that would be my thinking.
That could be some of it.
I'm
not
a scientist.
It could be a little of both, or it could be logistics, or wanting to try to stay away from traffic, creating traffic issues. As Garzi and I were talking about, you'd think with a decision that big, though, you can't wait till Saturday night. You probably Friday is the latest, maybe even tomorrow, if you're going to make that kind of a change. The Lakers have a game tomorrow. NBA is also downtown Los Angeles, which is not directly affected at this point, but there's an open question there too. And if the Vikings game is moved, most of the speculation, I believe, has been centered around likely Arizona, moving it to either Arizona or to Dallas. There's no chance, apparently, that the game would be moved here. Even though, as I said, the Rams are used to playing on the road even when they're at home.
Yeah, I don't think it would make... I mean, if it gets moved anywhere, like Arizona, it's going to become more of a home game for Minnesota.
No question.
Time now for the obligatory Kevin Fallness Minnesota Wild mention.
Well, they did make a move. I want to go here first because last night was fun.
Stick by Broberg. That allows Zuccarello to charge in. Cross ice, a shot. They score! Oh, Matt Boldy hammers it home. And all of a sudden, early in the third, the Wild have a 5-4 lead.
Yeah, they come back from behind, I think, several times to beat the Blues, a team, a bogey team for the Wild historically. Not so much this year. Everyone gets in on the scoring. Defensemen, forwards, Boldy, Middleton came back. That's great. Still waiting to hear on Brock Faber's status. But the Wild today made a move. They recalled defenseman, which is probably not good for Brock Faber now that I think about it. They recalled defenseman who they made a trade for, David Juracek from Iowa.
Yeah.
So he will be making his debut at some point.
Well, that would indicate something on Faber there, right?
Just talking through it out loud.
Yes.
Yeah, that's concerning. Forward, it's good, though, because we were waiting to see him since they made the trade.
That's true.
Devin Shore has been reassigned to Iowa. The Wild are on a 4-game winning streak right now.
Yeah, it was an impressive. Well, I think it was one of those where we were ahead, and then we blew the lead, and then we're behind, and we came from behind, and we ended up winning it. I like the Jay Middleton return. We like the quote from Midzi. We fight the panic. Could that end up being the Wild mantra? Because I think the thinking man's hockey fan believes that that's the kind of game last night with a lot of things swirling, injury issues. You blow a lead, then you're behind. Your goaltender was off. Was off his game, right, to a certain extent by his standards.
I mean, he got pulled,
and he get pulled, and that's not a game you're going to win. And you probably wouldn't have won that game last year. And so it's another example of what we've really been talking about for weeks is that the Wild have kind of figured out who they want to be and what they want to be, and they have a plan for how they need to play to succeed. And in this case, to quote Midzi, we fight the panic. There was a chance to panic. Last year's team might have panicked, and this year's team didn't. And is that just mental, or is that just you've got players better equipped and maybe a coach better equipped to help them through these crises? I think it's likely a combination of all. And I keep trying to, not speaking of panic, push the panic button on Kaprizov, but he hasn't even started skating yet, has he?
I don't think so.
So, again, because I think Luigi isn't buying the company line on this. He's a little more worried. He's been worried since he went down last year that is there something coming up that's chronic here a little bit. So maybe this is just the abundance of caution because it's still regular season. But and can you explain to me? You're the hockey guy. Do we have an extraordinary number? I mean, how do we explain all of our injuries? Are we just unlucky, or are we incredibly brittle? I mean, how do we explain the fact that every other game we seem to get another injury?
I just feel like that's the game.
It is the game. So it's not just us.
I don't think so.
Okay, want to be sure.
Not. And by the way, can you see Fight the Panic on some towels?
Absolutely,
maybe in
we were
March?
saying yes, 100%. It fits nicely.
It was Grit First was one.
That's why. That's
there was. It's about winning.
Yeah.
Which they got. I think they got swept that playoff series.
Yeah, that's
so go
true.
figure. So Fight the Panic.
And the danger, there is a danger with one like Fight the Panic, because then if you panic and you lose in your games 1 and 2 at home in the playoffs, the people are going to. Snarky individuals like me would say, well, we ain't fighting the panic too successfully right now. Are we, Midzi? Anyway.
Throw the towel on the ice afterwards, as far as I'm concerned.
Very true, David.
The Wolves go to Orlando tomorrow to take on the Magic. They are on a 2-game winning streak, so a little winning streak of their own for your Timberwolves.
Yeah, they are. We had a great conversation early with Mike Conley. In fact, I want to come back with a little bit about that. A little more detail about what the Wolves point guard, who's now on the bench, starting the game on the bench, had to say on a couple of fronts. And then we'll prepare for Patrick Kessler. Kessler in studio, we'll ask him about the rumors that he may be considering a move to Charlotte, North Carolina, after he went to the Duke's Mayo Bowl and apparently fell in love with the town, with the metropolitan area as well. So all of that is coming up. Don't go away. I apologize for the delay. Bumper to Bumper is back. Kessler will join next segment. He is in studio. We'll catch up with him because he's been, we had holiday break and we were out for a couple of Wednesdays as well. Mike Conley joined us at the start of the show. And of course, the big news Wolves related in recent days is that finally Finchie made a change to the starting lineup. It's no secret that Conley has been struggling mightily, especially offensively. Worst shooting, 3-point range and 2-point land of his entire career. And so it was the first chance we had to talk since Finchie approached him about the idea of coming off of the bench. Now, as we said with him, last night's game in New Orleans, he didn't start the game, but he finished it. You know, that cliche about really that's what matters. And my guess is there's going to be a number of games where he is there at the finish. Depending on, I think it's going to be, it's just basically going to depend on what Finchie's looking for at a given moment. And he might not always be right regarding his calculations, but there's going to be some games where it's DiVincenzo down the stretch, some where it's Conley. Maybe it's some games where it's both of them and not somebody else. The previous game, I think Randall only had like 23, 24, 25 minutes. So, if we've learned anything about this club in its unsettled nature, I think when you're up and down the way they are, then what most coaches are going to do is they're going to try different combinations until they think they've hit on something. And as Conley said to us, part of the frustration is that nothing has coalesced as much as he thought it would by now. He said he knew, given the trade right before the training camp opened, that it was going to take time. But he admitted, he said, by now, he did not think the Wolves were going to be quite as inconsistent with the kind of record, slightly above 500 record that they have. That definitely was a surprise to him. And he said on the shooting, it's hard to explain. He doesn't necessarily think it's because he's a year older. I'm not sure it has anything to do with it either. But he also acknowledged he's averaging the fewest number of shots he ever has through his 17 years in the league. And when you're averaging, I think he's down to we can double check again. I think it's like 6.5, 7.5 shots a game. When you're down that low, you can't exactly shoot yourself out of a slump, right? He's just not going to get a lot of shots the way this offense is set up. Probably shouldn't, but it might also make it harder for him to get out of it because last year, of course, he was brilliant from three. He was 44%. This is the lowest shooting percentage of his career from 2 points, and it's one of the lowest from three as well, and he's down 10 percentage points from a year ago. And he's in the 30s, low 30s, I think, overall in his shooting. We also talked about another, I think, really important subject, and that's Rudy. And Rudy is, even among Wolves fans, has become, I guess, a little bit polarizing again because we have short memories, and last year's last year, and it doesn't really matter this year. And he has not played as consistently well defensively as he did a year ago. That's undeniable. He is in a different role, like Conley, you could say, because of the new pieces, in a different role than he was a year ago. But I had pointed out to him a belief that if you're going to play Rudy, you still have to find a way to incorporate him offensively and integrate him into what you're doing. I don't mean 17 shots a game. I don't mean giving him the ball in spots where he's not going to do anything with it. But when there are opportunities because of mismatches or switches, whatever, where he is at the rim, you have to get him the ball. Even if there's a chance he's going to fumble it, even if there's a chance that he's going to get a shot blocked despite his size, if you're going to start him, this team is much, much better if they can get him to double digits, even if it's 11 points on, 4 for 5 shots or whatever the case may be. His free throw shooting has been better this year. And it also tends to energize him defensively. You could say it shouldn't be that way, but you have to deal in reality. And that's part of the reality. And part of Conley's frustration, he said quite openly, was a belief that they are missing Rudy. Teammates are missing him in obvious situations that will lead to a dunk. That he thinks they've not done a good enough job getting him to the ball, getting the ball at the right time, and then conversely making a mistake, forcing the ball perhaps at a time where he ain't going to do anything with it, or he's too far from the basket, or he's not a guy who's going to be able to make a move, whatever the case may be. So, all of that, I think, was interesting to me that he believes that with Rudy that it's an important component, and his teammates have to do a better job. That when it's an obvious situation where he's at the rim with a great height advantage, you got to get him the ball. It doesn't mean you get it to him 25 times, but again, if you get him to him enough, and if you can get him to 13 points with a low number of shots, that can help this team win, especially given how limited the starting lineup has been when Conley was starting offensively, and even McDaniels now is very inconsistent. The number of people that have shooting in the 30s from three, and that I think even includes Julius Randle, indicates that you got to try to get all offense that you can. If you missed the interview, it will be podcasted later tonight. He joined us at the start of the show, basically between 3 and 3:30. The good news for Kessler, who's coming up in a couple of minutes, is that people are already offering up real estate ideas for the greater Charlotte, North Carolina area. So there may be some help coming his way, some shortcutting that might come his way as well. All that is very good. By the way, Turk asks, who was the bumper music that got overplayed? Do you remember the name of
Use Me?
Oh, Bill Withers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Bill Withers. Yeah, the legendary Bill Withers, who many, many years ago appeared on the Paul Allen Project. Many years ago. I wonder if he saved that interview. It was an outstanding interview. Bill Withers, Rock and Soul Immortality, was on the Paul Allen Project. At least I remember that. Now maybe I'm making it up, but I'm pretty sure that he was. Speaking of making things up, how about Pat Kessler he'll file a live report from the Duke's Mayo Bowl. Well, he's back from it, but he was there. And we'll get into some shenanigans over at the State House that has a lot of undies in a bunch, and a couple of national stories as well. It'll be the usual combo platter with Pat Kessler. If you have questions or comments for him, hit the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. That is 64686. All of that is now.
I wish the American media would take a great look at the views of the people in Congress and find out, are they pro-America or anti-America?
Pat Kessler.
Because people have got to know whether or not their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
I can't trust Obama. He's an Arab.
Pat Kessler.
Tear down this wall.
I did nothing wrong at the Minneapolis airport.
Senator, you're no Jack Kennedy.
This is too
Pat
good.
Kessler. And now, to help Dan break down all the tough questions in politics, it's our own Pat Kessler, political wonk.
I feel like a supermodel, except like times 10.
God, this is so long. Honestly, it's a new year and it's still long. They keep asking Guardsy to shorten it.
On the Fan.
My God, it's just never stops. Kessler is back. How about this? Is one of the most well-crafted texts we've received at the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line 64686 in a long time. Would you please tell Kessler that I recently smothered a salmon fillet with Duke's mayo and Cajun seasoning prior to broiling it?
Oh, my God.
It was not dissimilar to P.J. Fleck and James Carville having a long and savory conversation in my mouth. How brilliant. I mean, that's brilliant.
Okay, that's pretty good.
That's pretty damn good.
That is pretty good.
For our first visit with you in 2025, that's a pretty good start there.
Oh, my God. Well, yeah, how many people... Do you put mayo on your salmon before you put it on the grill?
I do not.
Marinated in mayo.
Do you?
I'm a big Duke's Mayo guy.
You never even heard of it until you went to the game.
You're not wrong.
So does every store have Duke's Mayo like they've got Hellman's Mayo and they've got...
It's unbelievable. No, they do.
Okay.
Not only do they have it, but it's like on every shelf.
Really?
On every shelf is like a different flavor.
So are
Habanero.
Yeah, see,
Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah, I have heard of, not mayo, habanero?
Habanero.
I've heard of
mayo.
that flavoring with other things, but I guess it tells I've lived a secluded life because I
Apparently
thought
so.
there was one flavoring of mayo. I didn't have any idea. Like everything else, there's 22 mayo flavors now. Apparently.
It's true, and it took me a couple of days to recover from eating mayo out of a jar with a big oversized spoon. Lots of Gopher fans were doing that. They seriously, they were walking in with jars of mayo. And there was an M logo, the University of Minnesota logo on it. And people were open and just eating it right out of the thing.
That wouldn't excite me. I
know.
I use mayo only on the occasional sandwich, right? And I feel guilty about it. It's not very good for you, right? I don't think mayo is very good for you.
Not this month. In January, you can kind of put that stuff aside.
Okay, gotcha. All right. So... I keep hearing that you fell in love with your Charlotte experience so much that you're thinking about moving.
Unbelievable. What a great city.
What's so great about it?
What a great city. What a great state. It was really cool. Yeah,
it was cold, too.
It was so damn cold.
Didn't that bug you a little bit? You go to a bowl game, you want a little bit of relief.
The hell out of me. I thought I looked at it as kind of like the South.
Yeah, so it's going to be 58 or 60.
No problem. A little chilly, no big deal. I was freezing. Wore the long johns, did the whole thing. But yeah, I was pretty damn cold. But so we watched the game for a couple of quarters. We were so cold we went in at halftime. Came back out in the fourth for only one reason: the dumping of the mayonnaise bath
involving PJ.
Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah.
Did you hear Mace about that? Mace honestly told us that, because we had a listener with the question when he first came on saying, well, I'm kind of curious, would Mace, allow it, and would he do what PJ did, is take his hat off? Mace flat out told us, unless I got paid, I wouldn't do it at all.
Really?
Not into it.
Well, then he wouldn't be invited.
Undignified. Well, technically, Guardsy said there was a clause that allowed you your way out of it if you're the winning coach. I don't know if you have to do something else instead or whatever.
Or maybe, was it that you have to bring along some superstar to be dumped on?
That could be.
Something like that. You could bring along.
You have to bring another person to be your designated dumpee.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you know this, Blakemore?
Well, I just remember what Guardsy said, that someone basically has to do it, but you can bring like an alumni or an assistant coach or somebody, but someone's got to do it.
Kilby.
There you go.
Lord Kilby?
Lord Kilby.
That'd be good. That's a good idea.
Wouldn't that be good? No, well, it was fantastic to see Flava, one of my favorite guys.
You always have been a big Flava Flav guy, haven't you?
Yeah, you fight the power. Come on, of course. Of course.
Yeah, you're such a fraud. Honestly.
He was great.
Do we know, in all honesty, whether, I asked Guardsy this question, did PJ know who Flava Flav is? Did he recognize him?
Not only did he know who he was, recognized him, he was genuinely thrilled, excited, ebullient to meet the guy.
Good word.
And then he actually threw out his catchphrase right away. Yeah, boy. As you know, that is what you say.
I don't know, but I was told.
Am I wrong, Brett, about this?
Can you confirm it?
He doesn't know.
He has no idea either. Yeah, you're acting
young,
like
I'm too old.
And I'm just bored with it. Yeah, that's how I wouldn't even know.
Flav was great, though. Yeah, he absolutely knew who he was. He was thrilled. And I heard somewhere at the Mayo Bowl that it's not just like out of the jar, though it is, out of the jar, but they mix, maybe they throw in some lemon or something so that it pours a little. When you turn your mayo jar upside down, does it come right out? No, it's like
a blizzard.
It's a lot more solid.
Yeah.
So they have to mix it with something so that it can pour out.
Oh, good point.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. That makes sense.
So
what do they mix it with? Do we know?
Turpentine. No. It's probably just something like lemon juice or something.
Guardsy said he smelled the smell was overpowering.
Well, did he hug PJ?
No, he hugged Pierre Nugent. PJ tried to hug Pierre Nugent, and then there was a nice piece of video on that from Fox 9.
Yeah, there was. He declined.
He declined, but then PJ gave him another blanket.
He did put a blanket
around him, and then they did the hug.
And also the Goldie Gopher got the hug without the towel. So
it's Goldie Gopher. That's his job.
It was fine.
Or her job.
It was fantastic.
So the game
chalk up another win.
Yeah. So how many was it a huge Gopher contingent?
It was respectable.
Okay.
I would say not as big as when we went to the Rose Bowl, UCLA.
Okay.
Hope they're okay, by the way, in Pasadena. I know that a lot of those fires are very close to some of these landmarks. So it was a respectable showing, absolutely. Whether 10, 15, 20, I'm not even sure how many were there. I've forgotten to go and look. But we had a sizable. The University of Minnesota had a sizable number of fans there, and it was great. It was really great.
Yeah, it was a fairly
great bowl, great Mayo.
Well, it's not a great bowl.
Great
it's a meaningless bowl, but they played.
What is a meaningful bowl?
They did
the college football.
Correct.
Yeah,
Final
we'll get
12.
there someday.
Their schedule's easy enough next year that they should get there next year.
Should have got there last year.
Well, that's another story for another day. And meanwhile, the best quarterback they've had in forever, he's gone already. You didn't exactly maximize what Max Brosmer represented.
Well, would you agree that he is headed to the NFL?
Well, I think he'll get a look for sure.
Absolutely,
he'll definitely
maybe
get
a free agent walk-on.
Yeah, who's to say?
I think he is.
He'll get a look. He was very good college quarterback. Obviously, he was everything they could have hoped for and more.
Very solid
in his one season. But I didn't feel like I thought there was more meat on the bone in 2024. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
You're ready to give PJ another contract extension.
Of course.
Meanwhile,
what are you going to do?
Did you?
If he doesn't come back, if he leaves,
well, he's not going to. Where's he going?
What would you do?
Where's he going?
Well, it doesn't matter.
So you just give him a lifetime deal? Maybe the Bears will interview him. They're interviewing everybody else.
They really are.
It's possible.
Doesn't Bill Parcells want the job?
No, I think Bill.
Isn't he going?
Pete Carroll does.
Yeah,
but Bill Parcells. No, I think Bill Parcells has had enough.
Yeah, okay.
He's. I think he's older than Pete Carroll. Will you look up Bill Parcells' age?
And now Rex Ryan wants to go back to the Jets.
Yeah, and he's not.
How about
I don't think he's going to get that job. He's claiming he'll be shocked if he doesn't. But
here's what I want to say.
He's 83.
83 for Parcells. Yeah.
Yes.
Pete Carroll's 73. I think we said.
Correct.
Is that right?
He's a young 73.
Young 73.
He is.
Yeah. I mean, so
still got a full head of hair.
He's spry.
Yeah.
So the deal is that PJ has been really good for the program, has built the program up, and he has, and you know, and you got to build on the wins. You got to you have to navigate the portal. You got to navigate NIL. You got to navigate all this stuff. So it's going to be fine, Dan.
If you say so.
It's gonna be fine.
Oh God, where was the? Are we sure Kessler isn't readying himself for a move to Greenland?
How about that? How about your guy Trump?
He's gonna. So are we annexing Greenland and Canada, or one of the two?
We're not talking annex. We're talking
military.
Possible military force.
He's not going to do that, and you know it. He's not.
What? So you take our new president. Let me ask you this.
He's not. This is the game he plays, and you're falling for it again.
Do you remember?
We went through this 4 years ago.
That's what I'm going to say. So remember 4 years ago.
Right.
It's something different every single day.
Yes, it is.
And it's 10 things a day.
You can't get enough of it.
So he wants to not annex. He's threatening Denmark with the highest tariffs of all.
Right, yeah. But he's already backed away on a bunch of the other tariffs for all the bold. And now isn't he already saying, yeah, that stuff about, prices coming down, that's actually going to be a little bit more complicated than I thought. Remember? I mean, it's all... so
none
of it means anything.
What I'm hearing from him is I want to invade Greenland.
Yes.
Seize the Panama Canal,
which used to be ours.
Annex the Canada.
Right.
And then rename the Gulf of Mexico.
I didn't see that. I heard that one.
He wants to rename the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. It's serious. Marjorie Taylor Greene.
It's not going to happen.
Marjorie Taylor Greene has already introduced a bill. They could do it. They could absolutely do it.
Yeah, well, they could do it. It's not going to happen, though.
How about the Gulf of I will lower grocery prices?
Gulf of Tonkin. Question for Kessie from Dan, Minnesota. It's more local, and we will get back to some of the national stuff in a minute.
Yep.
Did I miss this? Didn't the interim dope pope just resign? Did we lose another interim dope pope? Did I miss this story?
It's Charlene Briner,
right?
Who was the firefighter. She is the fixer for all of the agencies that were kind of having trouble. They bring in Charlene Briner to one of the places in state government. Like she was the assistant commissioner at the Department of Education, a couple of other places too.
Yes.
Goes in and cleans up the mess. She's been there for 2 years, or is it longer?
I don't even know. You're the
no. She's very good at what she does, and finally she said, "You know what? I've given you all the time, and now it's time for me to go." So
we still don't have a permanent dope pope, and we don't even have an interim dope pope.
And
is that correct?
That is absolutely correct.
All right. And then are we going to get, so where are we with this? I mean, I know it's not on your list, but I am kind of curious.
Well, it is.
Because we talked about it before.
Right. Everything's in limbo.
In flux?
Yeah, it is, particularly since courts have ruled and the cannabis regulators have ruled that we're not going to go by the rules that were passed by the legislature for lotteries, for awarding licenses and all of that. So it's moving forward, but it's to my understanding, it's they're interviewing people, but they are not, and I haven't been interviewed yet. They are not at a point where they can roll this out. But it could be soon. I mean,
it's not going to be soon. It's going to be 5 years.
Well, what is this? The light rail? The Southwest Light Rail?
Pretty much.
I mean, come on.
All over again.
So all I want to know is, and I think a lot of people want to know, is when can we start growing the sweet, sweet sensimilla in our basements? That's what we need to know.
I think you can do that now, can't you? You just can't sell
Legally?
it, right? Can't you already grow it, but you can't sell it? Or am I wrong?
I don't think we're ready for that yet.
You're the dope pope expert.
Or out in the garden. So, it's one of those things.
Apparently, it is.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and I should have saved. There were a couple of texts earlier that were really good, but now it's the little wheels turning around and it's reloading or something.
What is going on?
I don't know what's going on. All right, so give us the latest regarding this notion, I guess, that the Minnesota House Democrats are going to boycott the new legislative session. Mm-hmm. We're 67-67. We've got the new election ordered. So right now it's 67-66 GOP for 2 weeks until the next election. So what exactly is happening, and how do you think, more importantly, this is going to play out?
Well, when last we spoke, which was late in the year last year, the legislature was tied 67-67, but the Democrats ran a guy in a district, and he didn't live there.
Right.
Judge ruled that he didn't have residency in the district, so he threw out the election. So now it is 67 Republicans, 66.
It's uncanny.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But they did have a power sharing agreement. There is going to be a special election, and it's a Democratic district. They will likely elect a Democrat, and then there will be another tie. But Republicans go into the session next week with a 1-vote majority, and they intend to use it to flex their muscle and elect a new speaker, appoint all of the committees, maybe even not allow another representative to be seated. And so they're going to effectively take control, what they call organizational control. They may not be able to pass bills, but they're going to take control. And the Democrats say they're not going to show up.
They won't show up at all.
They're not going to show up.
When are they supposed to show up? When's the session supposed to start? Tuesday, okay.
Or is it the 14th? So
okay.
that
would be Tuesday.
Tuesday, yes.
You're right.
So this is something that this state has never seen. Other states, we've seen it, including Wisconsin, where the Democrats took off and left the state and went to Illinois, went to Iowa.
When did that happen?
When Scott Walker was
that's right. Yeah, I remember that.
He was the governor, and he was going to pass all of this really, really tough cuts to education, eviscerating public unions, that kind of thing. So this has never happened here. So we are making it up as we go along. What does it mean? Can the legislature even meet? Can they, in fact, pass bills? This thing is probably going to go to court, but if Democrats don't show up, what happens? So they were elected by the people. So they have election certificates, but are they going to be sworn in? Are they going to work?
You wish you were unretired again, right?
Well, this is one of the very few times where I wish, holy crap.
Yeah, this is pretty unusual.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
So when is the new election is in about 2 weeks?
Yeah, it's January 28th. And the Republicans are going to court to say Governor Walz doesn't even have the power to call a special election because there's not even a new legislature. The dude was elected, but he has resigned from a seat he never held. So there's a lot of legalities here. Yeah, so it's going to be very, very tough. And after a couple of years of the Republicans really feeling like they were excluded from everything and bigfooted by the Democrats, I think we might see a little payback.
Yeah, that's
muscle flexing. Yeah. And I mean, they might take it to the limit and seize control here.
We have not talked about this on air. I think the story broke last week that the governor of the great state of Minnesota has raised his hand and said, we'll take care of that fraud issue or fraud issues. We're going to hire, we're going to create, I guess you could say, an agency that will take care of all of this stuff. We're going to find the bad guys. That agency is going to find the bad guys before they do any badness, before they steal $250 million at a time and take care of everything. I'm not buying it, but that's what he's doing. Is that correct?
It's a little shocking, but yes, it's as if Governor Walz, he's taken it seriously or said serious things and tried to do things. But this appears like the first time he's actually taken steps, public steps, to reassure Minnesota taxpayers that, yeah, he knows about the fraud and he's going to do something about it. Republicans have been complaining about fraud, and it's not just the Feeding Our Future. It's not just that. It's not just
a bunch of them.
Hundreds of millions, maybe even into the billions of dollars. I was covering this stuff, 5 years ago, 6, 7 years ago. And the Feeding Our Future, which became the largest fraud in the United States, the largest fraud in Minnesota history, $250 million during the COVID to feed kids. The governor is creating a new investigative unit within the BCA. He's adding new attorney general investigators, and he wants a new law to make it tougher for theft of public funds, tougher penalties. But again, I will say that this is something that people have wanted him to do, and previous governors, including Governor Dayton, for years, and he just has, they just have not done it.
But by the way, to go back to the Trump wanting to add a couple of countries and the count.
Yeah.
So supposedly now Ontario is talking about Canada might buy Minnesota and Alaska. How would Minnesota feel about that if we got bought by Canada? I think it would be like everything else, a 50-50 split. I think half the state would love it. I think half the state would say, no, I don't want to be a Canuck.
Well, or do we?
Well, yeah.
So it would, a lot of northern U.S. citizens, including the Upper Peninsula of Michigan,
right?
They want to be part of it.
Yes.
And I think northern Minnesota.
Well, that's it. I think there'd be a split, though.
Maybe we all want to be part of Canada.
Yeah.
Maybe just for 4 years.
Okay.
Right. But yeah, so this has gone from kind of mocking and insulting to really irritating to a lot of the even conservative Canadians. This is diplomacy by threat and insult. And why? These are our friends. That's the big question here.
Go ahead.
And they're going, I read somewhere that they're going from we're going to be really concerned about it till now I'm really upset.
You are getting ripped heavily.
Why wouldn't
Well, it's the pothead community that's coming after you hard right now.
Geez.
Kessler's wrong. People age 21 and older can grow up to 8 cannabis plants with no more than 4 being mature at a single residence.
That's what it is.
A cultivation license will be required to grow more plants. The plants must be grown in an enclosed, locked space that is not open to public view.
I love that. Yeah. So read that last sentence again. How many plants and where are they? They have to be 4 fully grown plants?
I'll read it again here if I can find it. No more than 4 being mature at a single residence.
Okay, so here is my question.
Okay.
Who checks to see if they are mature?
You're saying we're going to have to hire a few more people.
So it sounds like a lot of your listeners, and it doesn't surprise me at all, are growing the growing the ganja right now.
The texts are pouring in. Kessler doesn't even know the cannabis laws we have on hand. Come on, man. It's 1,000% legal to grow in Minnesota. 4 veg and 4 flower per adult.
I'm not paying attention, okay? I haven't started mine yet.
I have 2 grow tents set up in my basement. It's all about how many plants you have. You're allowed 4 plants.
Think about this.
Non-flowering and 4 plants flowering.
Who checks this? It's my question.
Well, we don't have, like I said, we're going to have to hire a whole other wing of that Elliot Ness, group that's going to take care of the Feeding Our Future scandals.
That's the whole thing.
Get to the bottom of it.
So I guess I better get going.
Yeah, you probably
this
should.
This is what you do in the winter.
We got Ode to a Dead Guy to get to, and we got a couple of other stories, and maybe one last look back at the Jimmy Carter legacy as well. It's Kessler in studio for the first time in a while, back in just a minute here in the Fan.
It's the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
It's brought to you by American Pressure.
We love the folks at American Pressure. I sure do, and I appreciate their continued support. I will mention that this might be a good show to podcast if you're just joining now. Great conversation at the top of the show with Wolves point guard Mike Conley, who spoke in depth about the Chris Finch decision to bench him and to bring him off the bench. We get into all that and a lot of ancillary Wolves issues that I think would be pretty interesting if you have interest in that club. And Conley's just a good listen, I think. Very even-handed, obviously. He's not a guy who's going to give you bombastic quotes, but I think he does give you some stuff to think about if you read between the lines. He joined early. Glenn Mason, not in studio, but by phone to talk about the college football tournament, which will continue. I think the first semifinal game is tomorrow night. And then I think that's Penn State, Notre Dame, and then the second one on Friday. That was between 4:30 and 5. Kessler joined from 5:30 on. Guardsy was in earlier. He's following his women's basketball team, the Gophers. Big game tonight against Rutgers. That's why Brett Blakemore did the top 5 at 5, has been in since. And Close Circuit to Fallness, if you didn't hear it the first time, you might want to podcast the start of hour number 2, because our lead in hour number 2 was his favorite hockey team, the Minnesota Wild, and our belief that the Wild have an opportunity, a marketing opportunity now, to make the 2024/25 mantra, "We fight the panic." That was the quote after an impressive come-from-behind victory after being ahead earlier from your guy Midzi, Jake Middleton, back in action for the first time in a while. After we knocked out, it was the Blues last night, right? The St. Louis Blues.
It was.
So we did, believe it or not, start an hour. Not the show, but an hour. Hour number 2 with some wild conversation. And that was between basically 4 and 4:06. No, I'm kidding. It's longer than that. It went to, I think, pretty much 4:20.
And I mentioned it.
Yeah, and you did. Yeah. So that's also true. So all of that will be on the podcast. I mentioned earlier today, the new iHeart app, I think, is highly recommended. It's just an updated app, but it's got a new look. It's got a great streamlined feel to it. It's very convenient. Basically, you got to, in effect, they're trying to like almost approximate the old time radio deal of a radio dial of in the old days, you had those 5 buttons. Your favorite stations would be on those buttons, and they create that as well. So again, for those who get intimidated by, if the Timberwolves are on the Timberwolves channel, where do I find it? I got to search. No, you don't have to search anything. Now you can make it one of your favorites, and you've got it. KFAN, you've got it. KFAN Plus, you've got it. All those stations, News Talk 1130, all of them are now available that way, and that's in addition to obviously all the music options as well.
Surely with all these new features, there's no how much could this cost me?
I assumed it was going to be like $19.95 a month.
Had to be.
Turns out it's free.
What?
Yeah, it is still 100% free and very easy to attain as well. So tomorrow is Thursday. I think you're in from Guardsy tomorrow, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So tomorrow, I'm hoping is Sean Salisbury. I'll check in with him tomorrow, but I believe he's going to be back on schedule this week. And we'll work on a couple of other things as well, because now we got to dig into Rams week. We're getting close to it. Thursday, Friday. Well, obviously, again, Sunday will be another 2-hour sermons, right? Because the Vikings aren't playing until Monday night, wherever the game is played. And then the beauty of it is a short show Monday because of the Vikings pregame show. So heavy Vikings conversation Monday, Tuesday, a little less today. We'll get back to more of that, I'm sure, tomorrow, and some other things as well. Coming up next in the fan is what?
X's and O's.
Oh, X's and O's tonight.
Well.
Wild Weekly. Mm-hmm. So it's a big night on your favorite station. And we'll start it all over again tomorrow, beginning at 3. Talk then.
I'll be there whenever you need me.
Sayonara, suckers.